Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Easy 11 Plus live lesson on verbal reasoning. Thank you especially to Ivo in the comments from Bulgaria, who was very concerned about whether I was feeling well this week after all my coughing and spluttering last week. I'm still ill, I'm still testing positive for COVID, I'm still coughing all over the place, but I'm a lot better and hopefully I am almost there. Fingers crossed I'll get a negative test back first thing tomorrow morning. Fingers crossed. But thank you very much for your concern. Today we are looking at verbal reasoning, not non-verbal reasoning, as I was almost about to start talking about non-verbal reasoning about an hour before this lesson, then I realised it was about something completely different. So I'm very, very, very organised today. Right, before I can be any more disorganised, before I start coughing, let's get started. I can't see anybody's comments coming through, by the way, in my chat feed. Ah, there you are. Someone's comment coming through. I'm starting to see them. Fantastic. I'm not alone. Okay, so we're starting off with a question here that is typical kind of verbal reasoning question. It doesn't really involve any words. These really annoy me. But they're about, can you identify a rule and then apply it, which is a really common thing in verbal reasoning and non-verbal reasoning exams. It's kind of what these things are all about, really. By the way, if you're looking at this question and you're thinking, where does this question come from? The worksheet for today's lesson is linked in the video description, which is underneath the video. If you're on a mobile device or tablet, you might need to press the little down arrow to make the video description appear. And then there's a link in there to the worksheet for today's lesson. There are lots of other links to explore there as well. There's lots of other useful resources, some of them completely free that you can download and use. My voice does sound funny, doesn't it? I can even hear it myself. Okay, so these questions here, as I said, it's about identifying a rule and then being able to apply it yourself. So the big mistake that people make with these is they look at the codes as a whole and they try to say, how do I get from HL to JO? You don't do that. What you do is you say, how do I get from H to J? Okay, so we look at the alphabet. Here's H and here's J. So how do I get from H to J? I go 2 to the right. So HL is to JO as AE is to something. So H is to J as A is to something. H to J is 2 to the right, A we go 2 to the right and we get C. Okay? So we're just working with one letter at a time. Magic rubber. Now we do the same thing with the second letter. L is to O as E is to something. L to O, how do we do that? L to O, 1, 2, 3. So E, 1, 2, 3 to the right, H. Okay? So HL is to JO as AE is to CH. And that is our answer. So it's really straightforward once you get the hang of how to do it. Priyanka says this is so fun. I'm sorry about that. I'm glad you think it's so fun. I can't honestly say that I think the same, but I'm delighted to be entertaining you. TN is to PQ. How do we get from T to P? Okay, so T is here, P is here. What did we do? We went 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. Careful to count very accurately so you don't make a mistake. So 4 to the left from F. So F, 1, 2, 3, 4. F. It's to B, okay? So T is to P as F is to B. N is to Q. So how do we get from N to Q? We go 3 to the right, OPQ. So G, we go 3 to the right, HIJ. Okay? So TN is to PQ as FG is to BJ. So you get the hang of these. Right, okay. Because these are kind of dull, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to leave the rest of these and maybe we'll come back later. Let's move on to the next kind of question and do some verbal reasoning with some, words. Okay. Made this a little bit smaller so we can see it all. If you combine a word in the first group, which always goes first, with a word in the second group, you can make a new word. Underline the correct word from each group. So we're looking for a word, not a phrase, okay? Right, so let's have a look. Priyanka says, I got this really nice box on Saturday. It was my birthday. Congratulations. Happy birthday, Priyanka. Happy birthday to you. Oh, always nice to have a chance to use that graphic. Okay, so you can see the example here. Shop and ping become shopping. But the big thing to look out for with these is things that change their sound when you combine them with other syllables or other units of sound. Okay? So let's bear that in mind. Don't just assume that things always sound the same. Now with these, you need to be very systematic. You can be systematic but quick. That way you don't miss anything. So question 6, we start with the is. And we try each of these in turn, okay? So we say is cause, is effect, is fuss, is face. So I'm trying different possible sounds for that unit. No, okay? Then we try be. Be cause, no. Be effect, be face. Be, hang on. Not be cause, because. Okay? So that's what we're after. By the way, I'm getting away there with underlining all sorts of things because I've got my magic eraser. Just be careful, don't do that with a pen in the exam, because then you're actually showing your answer, unless you've got a separate answer space or something, in which case you're fine. Subomi says, Robert, I've done this paper before. Yeah, I pulled some questions from one of the papers in 11 Plus Lifeline. So if you're subscribed to 11 Plus Lifeline, you might have seen this before. Yeah, that's possible. If you aren't a subscriber to 11 Plus Lifeline, why not? It's really cheap. Give it a try. Links in the video description. Next one, fire. Fire swim, firefly, firehop. Aha! Firefly. Surely that's the one. Firefly. Okay? A kind of flying creature. I think they're beetles that glow at night, and they're very beautiful. Just beware of things that are actually 2 words, but firefly is clearly 1 word. You can try the other options if you're not sure. Fire hover, water swim, water fly, water hover, earth swim, earth fly, earth hover. None of these are words. By sign. No. By shoot. Bypass. Bypass. Okay? As soon as you find a combination that is definitely a word, then it's okay. You can take it. If you're confident, you don't need to try all the other options afterwards. If you're certain that that's a word, and bypass is. Okay? It's a road that goes around a town rather than ploughing straight through the middle. Witful, witsome, wit her. Okay, no. Humorful, no. Humorsome, wish that was a word. Humour her. Joyful, oh, that really looks like the answer. Why is that not the answer? Of course you know this, because words that end with full only have 1 L at the end. Okay? The full loses the second L when it becomes the end of a longer word. Okay, joyful, no. Joysome, joyer. That doesn't seem to be an answer here. We must have missed something. Okay? Try again. Witful, witsome, no. Wit her. Oh, hang on, we got a T and an H, and T and H together become th. Wither, wither. Okay? Now you probably saw that earlier, but I want to illustrate the point there that sometimes things change their sound really quite radically. And you might not see wither from wit her unless you've done a lot of practice. You're very flexible. You're used to playing with the sounds of words and spotting alternatives, even when you're under time pressure and exam stress. And that's one of the key things to practice with questions like this. Truckogram. Sorry, by the way, in case you haven't realised, I am sucking a strepsil, which is why I'm going up the roof as I talk, just to try and discourage me from coughing too much. Truckgram, truck brace, truckton. Bikegram, bike brace, biketon. Cargram, car brace, carton. Carton, have you seen it? Arnav in the comments has, so has Learning Countries with Joshua. It's carton. Well done. Okay, so none of these too difficult, apart maybe from question 9, but you need to pay attention to the different possible sounds that might come up. Onwards, underline the word on the right that's closest to having an opposite meaning to the word on the left. Okay, synonyms and antonyms. Okay, opposite meanings. Excuse me, I need to cough. That's better. Good. Lovely. I'm sure you all enjoyed that. Good thing I turned the microphone off so I didn't explode your ears with my thermonuclear coughing. Right, okay. Accidental, problematic. Again, look out for words that can have different meanings in different contexts or that can sound different, which can be a confusion. Accidental. Let's stop and think about the word accidental. So not deliberate. Not on purpose. So we want something like purpose, purposeful, deliberate. Deliberate, it's there, okay? So this was actually quite straightforward. Just thinking about the word on the left, we actually spotted an answer that was there on the right. Now, this question could get you in a tangle because look how this is going. Problematic, then change, that can be a verb, I change something. Think, I think. Deliberate, I deliberate, it means think. I can't see an opposite for accidental there. So if you got hung up on the idea of deliberate, the verb meaning to think, to deliberate over something, I deliberated over whether to do non-verbal reasoning or verbal reasoning for this lesson, for example, you might not spot that there's an opposite there because you could say that also as deliberate, which is an adjective that's the opposite of accidental, okay? Do you get what I'm saying? Look out for different sound possibilities for words which can indicate different parts of speech. Deliberate, verb, deliberate, adjective. Antique. Okay, an antique's a very old thing, so we're going to be looking for things to do with newness. It's good to do this initial thought process so you have an idea of what to look for. Antique, furniture. Furniture can be antique, but no opposites or no synonyms either here. Kitchenware, antique kitchenware, I mean, I guess, but antique, modern. That looks like the answer. Antique, ancient. So ancient's kind of the same meaning as antique. Modern is the opposite meaning. So by thinking first, what am I looking for? What does antique mean? It's to do with being old. I want something to do with being new. That helps me to spot the answer. Okay, I need to cough again for a moment. Sorry. I'm back. Okay, check my microphone still. Yep, good. Still pushing out to you. Somnolent. Okay, now, I know what that means, but maybe not all of you do because it's an unusual word. So now we're in that classic verbal reasoning exam situation, which is, what do you do when you don't know the meaning of a word? How do you work your way around that? Okay, let's see. So somnolent, many. Well, what would the opposite of many be? It would be something like, it would be few, wouldn't it? And somnolent, have you ever seen that to mean not many, few? If you've got any idea at all of what the word means, it just doesn't really work with that. Also, an end-ending. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to help us actually, but not really, doesn't really go with many. I don't really like that one. Alert. Okay, alert. An alert is like an alarm. Wow, wow, wow. But that doesn't really have an opposite. But alert, now be very careful, different parts of speech. Alert can also be an adjective. Okay, I am really alert. Not really, I'm a bit tired, but anyway, I am really alert. So the opposite of that would be I am really like distracted or woozy or something. Okay, so somnolent, might it mean that? Could do sleepy. So sleepy, the opposite of that would be really alert, right? So alert and sleepy are actually opposites here. Somnolent, might it mean alert, awake? Somnolent. Well, it could do. It doesn't sound like a very awake word, does it? Somnolent, somnolent, somnolent. So just my instincts don't steer me towards that, but that isn't a particularly strong basis for reasoning this out. Widespread, so widespread, the opposite of that would be rare, unusual. Somnolent, yes, it could mean that, I suppose. So what am I going on here? Well, I feel that somnolent is quite a sort of sleepy sounding word, so I don't like it being the opposite of sleepy. It doesn't sound so likely to me. Now, this is not strong reasoning, but in an exam, any logic I can apply that gives me the most likely guess is good logic to use. So I've already got it down to two possibilities. Now, somnolent, again, is it a word that sounds like rare, the opposite of widespread, or is it a word that sounds like woozy, somnolent? I think it sounds woozier. So I'm going to go with alert as my answer. So I just want to show you how you can work around a word you don't know and give yourself a decent shot with a guess that's more likely to be right than just a straight guesses. And in fact, this would be correct. Somnolent means sleepy. Now, you might get to it if you know some other words. You might find another way through it. So, for example, a pretty common word, insomnia. Somnia. Okay, insomnia, lack of sleep. Or, yeah, struggling to get to sleep is how we use it. So somn is to do with sleepiness. So if you know that, then you can get quite quickly to the fact that it's the opposite of alert. hirsute. Okay, another one you might not know. Bald, bold, band, best. Okay, so the best you're likely to be able to do here is, if you notice going through these, that this is to do with, oops, that's to do with hair, and hirsute, here sounds a little bit like hair without an A. And that might give you a little bit of a clue that it means hairy and is the opposite of bald. But to be honest, if you don't know what the word means, this is one where you might largely be guessing. Sometimes that happens, my friends. You sometimes get questions where it's testing whether you know an unusual word, and if you don't, you're left guessing. But still, try to apply whatever reasoning you can to help you get closer to an answer. Life's like that sometimes. Well done to everyone having a go in the comments, even if they aren't correct. It's fantastic that you're getting involved and throwing your answers into the mix. Right, imitation. So imitation, as a noun, that's the act of imitating. So what, the opposite would be differentiation, something like that, making yourself different. Or it could be an adjective. An imitation watch is the opposite of a real watch. Yeah, but the real designer watch, for example, I don't know why you'd waste your money on such a thing, but if that's what you want. Such inverse snobbery here. Imitation. Copy. So an imitation, a copy, that means the same thing. So that's, and actually replication, to replicate something is to copy it. I reckon you all know that. So again, that would be kind of the same. Imitation. Authentic. What does authentic mean? It means real, doesn't it? Oh, that really sounds like the opposite. Whereas default or default, not really relevant. So again, with one like this, where the words are difficult, but you're likely to know them nonetheless, even if you have to think a bit about what they mean, I just want to show you the way that I think through it, the way that I try out options and come to the most likely conclusion. I just work through calmly like this, weighing up each word, always bearing in mind the different possibilities. Notice how I said default and default. And again, these different sounds are reminding me of some of the different possible meanings of this word, the different parts of speech that it might be. Okay, let's take a moment to go back to the first question, do another one of those. I said we'd work through them. MP is to JL. This was good for people who've joined later in the lesson, I guess. So how do we get from M to J? Remember I said we don't look at MP and JL, we look at just the M going to the J first of all. How do we get from M to J? We go back 1, 2, 3. So we have to get from Q to something. So Q, we go back 1, 2, 3 to N. Now how do we get from P to L? P to L, that involves going back 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the same as O to 1, 2, 3, 4. K, okay? MP is to JL as QO is to NK. Let's have a quick look at let's do the next one then while we're here. So RS is to LE, so we just look at one letter at a time. R is to L, okay, you know what you're doing by now. R is to, but you have to count very, very carefully here, okay, because this one is a little bit fiddly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going back here. So from N, we need to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, we're not counting the N itself here. So that's H. S to E, plenty of room for me to make a mistake here, by the way. Okay, S to E, so that's going back a long way. Let's count forwards instead. Count forwards, you say? Yes, why not? The alphabet here just goes round and round and round. X, Y, Z, A, B, C, okay? So let's do it this way, just to be imaginative. S to E is, so from S, there's my S, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're going 12 forwards. So S to E is 12, so that's the same as O to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. A. So there's nothing to stop you counting across the end of the alphabet, or you can go in the other direction. Same difference, doesn't matter. You can go either direction, just be consistent. So RS is to LE as NO is to H. A. Good. Let's go on and we'll come back and do that one a bit later on. Let's keep mixing it up because I think that's super boring and I don't want to bore myself to death because then who would finish the lesson for you? Right, we're racing through these. Well done to everybody, you got that. Fantastic. That is very tricky. Right, coffee. Hello from the panda. You know, the person who designed these mugs actually went to university as me and did the same course in the same college, and then went on to design these panda mugs and make a fortune from it. It's amazing what you can do with a not particularly useful education, isn't it? Anyway, hello, Edward Monkton. Right, a little bit older than me, dare I say. I never knew the guy. So, question 16. Cross out the word that does not belong with the other three. Oh, okay, right, sets here. The other three words may not have exactly the same meaning as each other. So we need the word that does not belong in the set, but there could be different reasons for the set existing. Flower, plant, creature, tree. Okay, these definitely don't have the same meanings. Flower, plant, creature, tree. Okay, so a flower and a plant. Well, a flower is a kind of plant. A tree is also a kind of plant. Flower, plant, tree. Well, we're all talking about plants here. The word creature, would you use that to describe a plant? No, you wouldn't. You'd use that to describe an animal. Okay? So they're all living things, but three of them are not creatures, whereas one of them is. So creature is surely going to be the odd one out here. I do actually have some answers here from when I put this together, and it's worth having them here just to avoid me making some terribly embarrassing mistake. Okay, right. Yawn, snort, burp, cough. Very appropriate today. Okay. Yawn, snort, burp, cough. Very tricky. So, could say some of them are associated with being ill, but I wouldn't say a yawn or a snort is particularly to do with being ill. A snort's kind of a laughing sound. I've got a snorting now as I laugh. A burp, what can happen anyway? I'm sure it doesn't to you because you're very delicate, polite, well-educated people. Cough, yeah, that's a kind of illness. I'm not sure the illness, not illness thing is getting as far here. Well, when in doubt, act. A yawn. A snort. A burp. A cough. I notice a pattern here. Yes, well done. Trident Gaming and Obsess Around the World. I agree with you, okay? Three of these are things you do with the mouth, and one of them is something you do with the nose. And therefore I think snort, being the nose one, is the odd one out. Laurie FFA TV says that's snot. No, snot is the stuff in your nose. Snort is the sound you make through your nose. How do we get on to talking about this stuff? Oh dear, come here, bring my illness along. And we spend the lesson talking about snorting and snot. Lovely. Okay. So, as the question said, the words may not have exactly the same meaning. In fact, they might not have at all the same meaning. It might be some other association. That's what we're looking at here. So you need to be open-minded. And notice how acting these out really found the answer for us. So be prepared to do the crazy stuff like that. Obviously, in an exam, you have to imagine yourself acting it, but still be an actor. It can really help. Okay, liveliness, power, current, voltage. Okay, liveliness, power, current, voltage. How many of these can be to do with being lively? Power, if you're powerful, yeah, I guess, but current and voltage, no, not really. Voltage, where have I seen that before? That is to do with electricity, isn't it? Liveliness, that isn't to do with electricity. A wire can be live, but you don't say it's got liveliness. Current, that's an electricity term, so is power. Three of these terms can be used to do with electricity, whereas liveliness can't. Okay, so look for clues in the set of words and play with them. Experiment, trying to find different ways that they might hang together. And there we have it. If you find that my slightly slapdash way of explaining these concepts is useful and gives you confidence as you do your verbal reasoning, then please remember to tell all your friends about the Easy 11 Plus channel and invite them along to join my lesson sometime and give this a try, because I want as many people as possible to find out about the free stuff that I do on this YouTube channel. Thank you for listening to that little commercial. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Gloomy, lugubrious, phlegmatic, depressive. Okay. So, what can I do with this? There's some really difficult words here. Well, I can see that gloomy and depressive have almost the same meaning. And that means that neither of these can be the odd one out. Does that make sense? If I spot two words that really clearly belong together, then neither of those can be the odd one out, because they'd have to be the odd two out. And the question is looking for the one word that does not belong. So I know the answer must be, almost certainly, lugubrious or phlegmatic. So even if I can't get any further, I'm down to a 50-50 guess, which is much better than guessing between four options, which I'd have to do if I hadn't gone through that first bit of logic. Now, I think, to be honest, I probably can't get much further without knowing the answer. So I might just have to take a 50-50 guess at this point, not knowing these words. But let's see where we could go. You could even try something as simple. It's better than just a guess, right? Going, which of these words sounds more depressive? Lugubrious, phlegmatic, lugubrious. That just sounds so much more depressing. So I'd probably go with that, and I'd say, yeah, phlegmatic, that's the odd one out. In fact, phlegmatic is the odd one out, okay? Lugubrious also means gloomy, depressive. It's a nice word, actually. It's a really nice word, lugubrious. Whereas phlegmatic, it means not too emotional, kind of pragmatic. Oh, I'm coughing. That wasn't deliberate at all, but it is a useful way to illustrate it, because phlegmatic comes from the idea of, horrible to say, phlegm. And it goes from the medieval idea that our emotions were formed by the humours, okay? These different things in our body that might influence our emotions. One of them is phlegm, and the theory was that if you had lots of phlegm in your body, it meant you were very calm. Doesn't make me feel calm, it makes me want to cough and feel quite annoyed. But anyway, you're quite calm and relaxed about things and could approach problems in a moderate fashion. With the opposite is someone who's very sanguine, someone who's really charged with blood, and you can imagine that someone who's red-faced means they're kind of really passionate about the things they do. They follow their emotions. That's the opposite of phlegmatic. Anyway, depressive, lugubrious, phlegmatic, the odd one out. There we are. A couple new words there for maybe some of you. Resigned, satisfied, contented, and happy. Okay. Well, look, satisfied and contented are obviously really, really similar in meaning. So neither of those can be the answer. Happy, I think, is likely to go with them. Is it the same? If you're happy, yeah, I'm happy. But happy can also mean I'm content with it. Are you happy with that? Yeah, I'm happy with it. It's fine. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm so delighted about it. It can just mean I'm content. It's good enough. And that would go with satisfied and contented. So they seem to go quite naturally. Resigned, so it could be I resigned from my job. I'm done with this. I'm out. Bye-bye, people. I don't want to teach you anymore. Only joking. But that would be an example of someone who has resigned. But that isn't what we're talking about here. We're talking about an adjective, satisfied, contented, happy. So resigned, if you're resigned to something, what's going to happen is going to happen. Nothing I can do about it. That's not the same as being happy with it. It doesn't mean you want it to happen. It doesn't mean it's a good thing in any way. It just means nothing you can do about it. Okay? Yeah, you can be resigned to something really bad. You can be resigned to the fact that that those people coming around the corner are going to beat you up and you can't stop them. It doesn't mean you're happy with it or happy about it. So resigned is the odd one out here. Right, and we're nearly there. Let's skip back and do the last one of the first. Whoops, that's me listing some of my books. Scroll up in the worksheet if you want to see what they are. Lots of things there that should be useful for you, but anyway. K is to Q. K is to Q, okay? K to Q. I've got to rub some of this rubbish out because it's going to be confusing. Oh yeah, okay, K to Q. Here's K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Q, 6 to the right. So F is 2. So from F we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's L. Okay, that's an L, not a V, honestly, promise. Okay, P is to T. How do we do that? P is to T, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. As H, this is not too difficult, I, J, K, L. KP is to QT as FH is to LL. Interesting. Just check that is indeed the answer and I haven't made a terrible mistake. Yeah, okay, good. So this should illustrate something really important. If you were doing this by trying to say, okay, KP is to QT and you're looking at the complete set of letters, there's no way you'd believe the answer could be LL because none of these letters are the same, and yet here we've gone from 2 different letters to 2 letters that are the same. So it just doesn't seem right somehow. But if you look at one letter at a time, that naturally falls out and it is the correct answer. Okay, so don't second guess the question, don't try and do everything at once, get used to working stepwise, applying the rule, just do the rule, just do the method and trust the answer. Great. Onwards to the last part of this. So a good range of verbal reasoning questions in here. Some of them really hard, some of them with words that may be unfamiliar, some of them where it's just about getting used to a good practical thought process so you don't miss things and so you can work quite quickly. A good mix of those things I hope in this lesson. Right, the mat cat is sitting on the fat in the example. Okay, clearly wrong, but how do you work with that? So the system I'd have here, I'd go to the first word that seems wrong. Okay, the mat cat is sitting. Okay, mat is the first word that seems to be out of place. So then I go on and say, okay, then what next word might seem out of place? What word might I swap with it? The mat cat, the mat cat is sitting on the fat. Sitting on the fat, why would you sit on fat? It isn't grammatically absurd, but it's a bit odd. So then we say, what happens if we swap fat and mat? The fat cat is sitting on the mat, and we have the answer. Okay, now let's try the same reasoning. What hours will it be into time? Okay, into time. So time is obviously out of place. What hours will it be? We don't really say that in English. In some languages you do say pretty much that. In English that also sounds quite wrong. What hours? So these words both sound kind of wrong. So then we say, let's try swapping them. What time will it be in 2 hours? Good. So those are our answers. Now bear in mind, as I mentioned earlier, you have to underline the answers here. If you start underlining things to try them out and they aren't the answer, you're in a bit of a mess. Unless you work with the pencil that you can rub out, or you do something like putting marks above like this. So that clearly isn't the answer, but you can use those marks to help your working out. The leader very running is smoothly. The leader very running, so leader might be the wrong thing, or very might be the wrong thing. I'm not sure which is the first thing that's wrong. Running is smoothly. So this is not obvious at all, okay? So you're going to have to mess around with this. The could be wrong, but I think that's probably okay. The leader, so let's try swapping some things. The very, the running, the is, the smoothly. No, only leader really works. Only leader works as a noun there. The leader, very, the leader very. The leader running, the leader is, what happens if we swap is and very? The leader is running very smoothly. That makes sense. What could this possibly be about? So the first one was clearly about asking the time. This one, well, maybe it's about a race. Okay, maybe it's about a race and the first runner, the leader, is running very smoothly. Aha, it makes sense. Okay. If you can picture the situation in your head before you sort the words out, it becomes a lot easier to deal with. If you can't, you have to be systematic and keep swapping things around like this. But as always, I'm encouraging you to be systematic, to try one thing at a time, not just to try random guesses, because if you do that, you can just keep missing the answer and keep going past it. Better to pat myself on the back, and that works better because then falls down from the back to the front and you can cough, but hard to do that to myself while doing a YouTube lesson. I'll have a nice lie down on my chest when I finish this, and that will help me to feel a little bit better. Once upon a time, that all looks like it belongs, a castle troll lived, a castle troll could be a thing, lived in a mighty beautiful. Okay, beautiful is clearly wrong. A mighty beautiful, we need a noun. Lived in a mighty noun. So if you're thinking about parts of speech, that really helps you. Mighty adjective, noun, something. Beautiful is an adjective. We need a noun. What have we got? Once upon a time, we leave that as it is. A castle, that's a noun. So let's try swapping that. Once upon a time, a beautiful troll lived in a mighty castle. That makes sense. It isn't what you might expect, because you might expect a troll to be ugly. But why? That just shows how prejudiced you are against trolls, okay? It shows that you're trollist. I see no reason why this couldn't be a beautiful troll living in a mighty castle. Widen your horizons to the possibility of beautiful trolls. I mean believe. Okay. These words can't all be there. Either mean or believe is wrong. I mean believe. Let's try mean and swap things with it. Okay, again, I can underline because I can rub out. I that believe, I you believe, I really believe. Okay, let's try that. I really believe that you mean don't what you say. That you mean don't what you say. It was so close, but it isn't the answer. I mean believe that you really don't. All right, don't. I don't believe that you really mean what you say. Got it. I don't believe that you really mean what you say. And now we got a sentence that makes sense. So this one is tricky, and this is why you have to be really systematic, okay? Because if you just said, mean, and I really believe, so really goes, you'd have the wrong answer, okay? Because that doesn't work. I really believe that you mean don't what you say. It is getting room hot in this little very. Yes. It is getting room. It's got to be room, hasn't it? It is getting hot room. It is getting in hot room. It is getting this hot in room. It is getting little hot in this room very. It is getting very hot in this room. Okay, I'm systematic. I try one thing at a time. And the answer falls out nicely at the end. I reckon I probably came up with this question in July or August. That sounds most likely to me. And there we are. That is that. Be systematic, have good methods, and apply them. And when you don't know a word, don't just go in and do a 1 in 4 guess. Eliminate as sensibly as you can until you're left with possibilities between which you can guess. And you might even have a way to plausibly guess the right answer, even without being certain. It's the tip of the week, and I want to go back to a favourite tip that I have given in the past, but I think it's such a useful tip that I want to share it again for people who haven't heard it before. Or a reminder for the rest of you. People who have trouble with spelling, and that to some extent is probably 90% of the people watching this, have some issues with spellings, even if your spelling's generally pretty good. People who have problems with spellings, especially big problems, often think this is too much, I cannot fix this by my 11 plus, I'm just going to have to accept I'm going to lose those marks. That is almost never the case. There is a really simple thing you can do. You can start it today, you'll have done it within about a week, and your spellings will be completely transformed. I pretty much promise you. And it is this. Go through your recent bits of writing. Write down the 40 or 50, no more than that, maximum 40 or 50, most common spelling mistakes that you make. The things that aren't just one-offs, but things that you've done several times. Make a list of them and learn them. Just 40 or 50, no more. Learn them really well, go over them again and again, copy them out, cover them, make a spreadsheet and randomize the order and type the answers in and see whether they're correct. All that kind of thing, get people to test you, blah, 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 blah. And then, once you know them really well, you will probably find that your spelling problems are almost completely gone. Why? Two reasons. One, if you've got a problem with spellings, probably 95% of your mistakes are the same words misspelt again and again and again. That's always the way. Okay? Because let's say that you know 10,000 words. You don't use those words evenly. Okay? You probably use the word the hundreds of times a day, and you probably use the word audacious only once every few months. Okay? So words that you misspell frequently are words that you use frequently, and so learning how to spell them will solve some of your most common spelling mistakes. Second thing is that words do not exist in isolation. Okay? So if you learn how to spell the word bountiful, then you have learnt how to correctly spell all words that end full. And so you have just solved loads of other potential spelling mistakes just by learning that one word. English is like that. So for each spelling that you learn, you actually will correct the spelling of lots of other words which have things in common. And so those two facts together mean that learning your 40 or 50 most common spelling mistakes really well will transform your spelling. So do it now. Sort out your spellings and your life will just be so much easier and your marks will be so much better. Okay, Pockebolt Lightning says, is dislike a word? It most certainly is a word. Ramakrishna says, yeah, actually, hang on, people are asking questions and that means I should be doing your questions. Ramakrishna says, what reading book do you think will help the most? I don't mean this facetiously at all, but the reading book that will help the most is the book that you enjoy the most and that gets you thinking the most. Those two things together. Okay? So a book that you don't enjoy, you won't be engaged enough to learn from it and improve your English, I guess is what you're asking. But a book that's really, really easy for you, then it won't really challenge your brain, so you probably won't learn much from that either. So you need to look for books that interest you, but that are not just completely mindlessly easy to read. And that, I mean, there are so many books that could be. There is effectively an infinite number of possible books that could fulfill those criteria for you. And you will need to find what they are. But one bit of advice I've given quite a few times, I think it's a really useful way to look at it, is take a book that you really enjoy, on a topic that you really enjoy. So loads of people like reading books about wizards or about spies, that kind of thing. And then look for older books from a few decades ago, also on topics you like. And that way you'll take something that interests you, so you have a good chance of being involved in the book, but you'll find some slightly more difficult, slightly more classic language, and that will challenge you, and that will give you a good mix. Sorry, excuse me. Bit of a snort there. Yatarth Patwa says, sorry, I pronounced that horribly, let's try that again. Yatarth? That's my best guess. Tell me if I've pronounced that correctly. Tell me whether I've pronounced that correctly. Yatarth. Yatarth Patwa says, I just wanted to say that I passed my 11 plus exam and you helped me so much. Thanks. Woo! Congratulations. That's absolutely fantastic. I think it's time for some more confetti. Really well done. It always makes me very happy to hear these things. HB Pencil says, do not push yourself, Robert. I'm sorry, there's nothing like being told not to do something to make me do it. Sorry, I'm just being silly. It's really kind of you to say so. How to do persuasive writing, says Brinda. Well, I have a treat for you, because go back to, I think it's last week's, it was last week's lesson. Go back to last week's lesson, which is on the channel, and you'll find a lesson all about persuasive writing. Problem solved. Yeah, increasingly people say, can you do a lesson on such and such? And the answer is look in the channel, because there's already a lesson on it, because I've done so many of these lessons. Nadia says, what do you use to create the worksheets? It depends on the worksheet, really. I mean, for this worksheet, I've done it in Microsoft Word, very advanced software. It depends what it is. I do the non-verbal reasoning pictures in InDesign. The really colourful creative writing stuff, actually had there's a wonderful designer called Heather who designed those books for me. So anyway, all kinds of different things. Sir Robert Stupendous Lomax, thank you Trident Gaming for using my correct name. Do you have any idea what the total amount of marks is for the KES exam GL? I'm not even sure which KES. The K is Birmingham. They set their own exams. They don't use the GL. So I've no idea. Don't know. Sorry. Cough coming. Feels a bit better. What was your S? Yes. Is Tom Sawyer a good book? Yes, I think any Mark Twain, fantastic to read. You go back to these classic 19th century, especially American texts, and you'll often find some slightly eyebrow-raising attitudes to issues like race and racism and that kind of thing. That's something to take in your stride. But yeah, I mean, fantastic books and really interesting. It's kind of, anyway. Robert, what do you think I should be reading fiction or non-fiction books to help me with my exam? Both. Krista says, I'm great, thank you. You're great too, Krista. Paul says, what was your secondary school? I was at the King's School in Chester, and then I was at Christ Hospital down in Sussex. Laurie says, I'm going to Able Writers event. Do you know anything about it? No, I don't, I'm afraid. Sorry. How to crack creative writing. Well, I've got lots of videos on it, so sorry, I'm going to do that. Go and watch my videos thing. Have a look at the links in the video description. There's loads of stuff there. Look at my RSL creative writing books. 11 Plus Lifeline has got loads of stuff. 11 Plus Lifeline members have the option of actually sending me work, and I'll give you individual detailed feedback on your creative writing. That might help. There's some stuff on my blog about creative writing. I've got loads of things on creative writing. Explore the links in the description. How to crack it, though. I mean, you never crack it, right? It isn't like maths. It kind of, isn't like 11 plus maths where, once you can do it, you can do it. You could always be a better writer, and there's always going to be something challenging to write about. It's not, it isn't just a mechanical skill. But I'm still being told not to push myself. It's like HP wants to get rid of me, or hang on, hey, I'm pushing myself. Okay, it's a terrible joke. Terrible joke. Just no more. Stop encouraging me, HP. HP. Right, I'm going to stop in a second. Not because I'm pushing myself, but because I think you all need to go and get your dinner. Do you have any information on Reading Boys? No, I'm not really an expert on specific schools, to be honest. I do the entrance exam stuff. But well done that you passed it. Fantastic. Brilliant. You're obviously very proud of that, and so you should be. Well done. When is the next live? Simomi, when do you think the next live is? Because these lessons are every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And in fact, that's a really, really good way to finish. Wazzy says, can you make a video about percentage? Look at my channel, look in the maths playlists, and you will find videos about percentages. I will definitely cover it again, but there's already lots on percentages there, so you'll find some stuff there. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I think this is probably a nice moment to finish. Look how swish I am as I pull the music back in. Swish is not a word I would use to describe my performance in these lessons. So I'm doing that thing where I point at vacant space, because that is where, when you're watching this not live, there will be a video popping up for you to click on to continue your learning, because that's what you really want to do. Oh yes. Fantastic to have you here. Please like and please subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't subscribed, why have you not subscribed? Look at the links in the video description. There is loads of free stuff there. Why would you not click on it? And tell all your friends about this channel. Drag them back next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock for my next Easy 11 Plus live lesson, and my short videos every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock.